So today we are going to talk about the year-long eyeshadow project Pan. This was a project created by Sarah Katherine quite a few years ago now, and I watched her for many years, and then I tried to join in on it. I think it's been 2 years now since I tried or made my first attempt at this, or maybe it was last year. And I tried to do it again this year. You need to use every shade or hit pan in a shade in that palette based on the year it is. So it's year 2025, so I have to use all of the shades in my eyeshadow palettes 25 times, but it can be rolled over. So if I used it 24 times last year, I only needed to hit the 25 use goal this year just by using it one more time, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I was kind of trying to do this, and then I realized it really wasn't the project for me. I was kind of pushing it to the back, and it wasn't my top priority to do this. However, I do make a good effort of going through all of my eyeshadow palettes, and so I was trying to think, well, how can I still do this project pan and do some sort of an update, somewhat of an update, and kind of make it make sense for me, right? So what I have decided to do is, because I already keep track of every time I go into an eyeshadow palette in my palette usage spreadsheet, which I have spoken about in a few videos now, I kind of know vaguely how many uses I've done in every single palette that I own currently, and I've become much more accurate over the years. Like if you look at like 2 years ago, it was a little bit less accurate, it was a little iffy, it was kind of more like guessing, oh, I forgot to do this, I'll add in like a use here and there. But now whenever I use an eyeshadow palette, it's not in a project pan, I will put my use in my spreadsheet after I've done my makeup look, and every time I update my project pan in a video and I release it, then I update the spreadsheet with all of my uses for the last month. So I've been pretty, accurate, I would say, definitely in the last year. Now, what I've decided to do today for today's video is go through my top 20 eyeshadow palettes in my collection, where I have got the closest to being able to use every single shade 25 times. The way that I've done this is I've gone through all of my uses and I have seen what the percentages out of 25 is. And then I've done an overall average percentage for the palette. Now you have to bear in mind, some palettes are bigger than others. So some of them are going to be a little bit trickier to get like 100%, 25 uses on absolutely everything. And then whereas others are going to be a little bit easier. And so the percentage will be a little bit higher. I'm not a mathematician, but the math seems to be mathing in my head when I do it this way. So I've got my top 20 eyeshadow palettes where I am basing the usage out of 25 uses per eyeshadow pan in that palette. Does this make any sense? I'm gonna go through all of them, and then on the screen, I will have it shown what my uses are in the palette, just so you can see like where the numbers are coming from. And then obviously when we get to the top, you'll see I have quite a lot that are over the 25 uses. If they're over the 25 uses, obviously I've just done 100% for that shade. So anyway, I'll just get into it because I think it'll make a little bit more sense as I go through the video. Okay, so the first one here is my Look for Rainbows from Gloss Gods. So this one I've used 13% of the palette, just based on what I'm trying to do, which is use all the shades 25 times at least, right, for this project. So this one is my Pan That Palette in order. So it's a little bit of a spoiler because that update will actually go live tomorrow, which I've already filmed, but just ignore that. So this is what the palette is looking like. And I will just take a little snapshot and then we'll see what my totals are for all of the shades in there, just so you can see, because I think everybody is very curious about total numbers. This is not total numbers in a particular project. This is total numbers of what I've calculated for as long as I've owned this eyeshadow palette, right? Next one here is from ColourPop. It is the California Love. I will just want to say, so I am obviously not including my ColourPop singles in this, but if I were to include them and include them by their palette name, like the Blue Moon, for instance, or the Lilac You A Lot and things like that, they actually ended up having really high percentage usage, but I've only decided to concentrate on the palettes for this video, if that makes sense, because obviously those are not technically palettes anymore, even though for a lot of them I've kept all 9 shades of the 9 pan palettes. They're not currently in a palette, so I'm not counting them, if that makes sense. Anyway, California Love, I've used 15% of this palette. I don't know, that kind of surprised me. It must have been years ago, because I really have not used this in a really long time, but you can see my total numbers there, and only 50% used. This is a palette that I'm most likely going to be depotting in my ColourPop singles anyway, so I probably won't count it too much longer. Then we have Menagerie Cosmetics, the Killer Purr. This one's got an 18% use goal. And I think a large part of that would be because I hit pan in this, and that took a lot of uses to hit pan on. There's definitely shades in here which are like 1% goal or something like that, something silly. And just bear in mind, it's out of 25 uses. So if I've used it, I don't know, 10 uses out of 25, that alone is a percentage of the 25 uses. And it's just, and what I'm talking about is just the combined average use for the palette. When I say I've used it only 18% of the way, if that makes sense. I'm hoping it makes sense. It's probably not. Next up, this is another one where I've used it 18%. This is the Avocado Toast from BH Cosmetics. I actually decluttered this and then I brought it back. So I was going to be declutter, and then many of you thought that I should bring it back, and I did do a get ready me with it. But yeah, those are my total uses on it, and it's still in my collection. I've decided to keep it. Again, a lot of uses were probably from the Lemon Pepper shade. I did go into that obviously to try it to hit pan, so I did get a fair amount of use that way. Next up, we've got the NARS Afterglow. This one I've used 19% of the palette. And this is what it is looking like. So bear in mind, a lot of these are going to be my older palettes. It just makes the most sense because I've had them longer, so I've been able to get the uses out of them longer. Next up, we've got Natasha Denona Retro Palette. This one has a total use of 20%, so still a fair amount to go. I do have quite a fair amount of pans in here, and I am working on the shade in my Pan Those eyeshadows. But yeah, this is what it's looking like, and those are my total uses for this palette. Next up, we've got ABH Nouveau Palette, which is also at 20% usage. This one I really haven't used that much recently, so this one's looking like that, and those are my total uses. I do have a pan in here. Whenever there are pans in an eyeshadow palette, obviously my usage is going to be quite a bit higher. Then we have ABH Jackie Aina. This is at 23% used, and it's looking like this, and those are all of my totals. Again, this one has a couple of pans in there, but I'm kind of surprised that this one is ahead of the Nouveau, just because I mean, I have had it longer, so that makes sense, but I don't know, I really haven't gone into this too much. Then we have a Sample Beauty Equalizer Volume 2. Now this one would be higher up had it not been such a big palette. There are 30, I think there's 30 shades in here. Yeah, 30 shades in this palette. So it has been pushed down a little bit further down because I have actually put tons of use on this, but because overall I'm doing like average percentage wise, it's got like double the amount of pans that some of these other palettes that I've already spoken about. So it's kind of averaging in the middle, and this one's at 25% used. So even though I've gone into it so much and it's looking like this, I can't even fit it on the screen. There's just so much use on here because obviously it was in my project level up for a long time. I think it was like my level 2 or 3, and then I've just had various other eyeshadow, or just had it in various other, I think, Pan Those eyeshadow projects as well. So I've got a lot of use out of that one. Had it been a smaller palette, it would have been much higher up in terms of the average. Same thing for the Ultra Ego Artemis. This one, the same thing, I think, right? This has got 28 shades, so almost the same size as the Equalizer. And this is also at 25% usage. And I've gone into this so much, but because it's such a big palette, the usage is still only in the 20s. Had it been slightly smaller, it probably would have been like 40% used. So that's where we are with this one. Again, this is another one where I've had it in a few projects, but because there's so many shades, it is going to take a long time to get the 100% usage on that one. Okay, next up we've got Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. This one I have 27% use on it just by using it alone. I mean, I really do like this palette, but that surprises me. I think I have 2 pans in here. Maybe one of them was in a project. Actually, one of them was in my Zodiac Project Pan a few years ago, but this one was a natural pan down here. And all the other uses have just been because I really kind of wanted to go into this palette. So anyway, love this one. Then we have the Lethal Cosmetics Avatar Air. This one's really high up because I do have it in my current project level up. It's also only a 9-pan palette, so percentage wise, it's actually a little bit higher than it probably should be. This one I've used 33%. And this is what it is looking like. A little bit of a spoiler there if you do follow my project Level Up, but those are all my total uses since I've received this palette. I do love this palette, so a lot of those uses was before I put it in my project Level Up, but still, that's a lot of uses, honestly, because I only just got that a year ago, like last summer. Okay, next up is Gloss Gods What's Your Power? This one I have 34% use on, and I did have it in my Project Level Up. Project Level Up's really the project to go if you want to be able to do the years-long eyeshadow project pan, because it really helps, because you do no pan left behind, you have to use every single shade a certain amount of times, and it really gets you going towards the overall like 25 uses that you need for this particular project. But anyway, this is what this one is looking like. I'm not at all surprised. This one is pretty high up. It's a medium-sized palette. And I have had it in projects and I've used the shades quite a fair amount of times. Let me know, is this video making any sense to anyone? If you know years-long eyeshadow project pan, I'm just basing it on the 25 uses. So hopefully that makes sense. I know I keep saying the same thing, but I don't know if it's gonna make sense for everybody. Okay, next up we've got the Alter Ego Canyon. This was also in a project level. It was my level 5 and it took me a really long time to hit pan in certain shades. This is what it's looking like, and this one I have 37% use on. So quite a fair amount of pans in there, which really helped with the percentage. Then we have my Club Nebula from Kaleidos. This one has 41% use on it. This one was in several projects, was also in my project Level Up recently, so I got a fair amount of use on this, as well as I think pan those eyeshadows as well. Really love this palette, so happy that it is so high up in terms of how much I've used it. So this next one surprised me at first, but then I saw how teeny tiny it is. This is the MAC Star Sighting palette in the shade Fuchsia. This was like a Christmas edition several years ago now. There are only 6 shades in here, so obviously percentage-wise it's really high. This is also at 41% used. Obviously I have a few pans in there, so it was in some projects at some point. I have traveled with this as well a couple of times, but very small palette and obviously only 6 shades. Next up we have one of my pan palettes for the year. This is the Huda Beauty Naughty Nude. This is 45% used. This is what it's looking like. Not too much of a spoiler for my pan palette, hopefully. But yeah, this is what it's looking like. Obviously I've hit pan in various shades. I'm not including the shade that I had to scrape out, which is that slippery shade. That's not included obviously, because I did not end up really using that. Maybe I used it once, but it's no longer in my spreadsheet because I don't own it anymore. All right, we are in the top 3. Can you guess? I'm sure you can guess. Next one is the ABH Norvina. This one's also at 45% used, and I'm not surprised at all. Slightly smaller than the Huda Beauty, but I do have several pans in here and you can see my total uses for all of those. So honestly, this is one of the ones that I was trying to finish for this year. But obviously I was failing because I realized, you know, oh, I only have like 10 more uses on this. I only have like 15 more uses on that. But then I think that's actually quite a lot of uses considering I do other project pans. So as long as I slowly work on them, I will eventually get there with these palettes. I just need to like think about it occasionally and just like use them. And I like that I'm doing this a lot more organically than just forcing myself. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the next time I do an update like this, I'll have a lot more that are a little bit closer to the 100%. Okay, next up we've got my Alter Ego Shadow Kiss. This is my other pan palette for the year. This is at 50% used. So still nowhere near the 100 mark, but this is what this one is looking like. A little bit of a spoiler from my pan palette, but who knows? Maybe you won't even notice. And yeah, that's the total uses currently right now. Obviously my pan palette update will go live in about a week. So maybe this will have even more uses on it. And then lastly, the eyeshadow palette that I have the most use on for this years-long eyeshadow project pan project is my Stone Vise from Urban Decay. And this is the other palette that I was trying to use this year. And if you had seen my last update, obviously I spoke about this and I spoke about the Norvina from ABH. This one I have 75% used. So I'm actually really close to hitting the goal on some of these. I just haven't used this palette. It was my pan palette last year and I think I just got burnt out. I just didn't want to use it too much. So anyway, this is what it's still looking like. I don't think it's changed because I don't think I've gone into it since my last update. If I have, it might have been just 1 or 2 uses, but those are all the uses that I have on the shades as well. So you can see obviously there's a lot here that have well over 25 uses, but there's still some that I still have yet to use 25 times. So those are my top 20 used eyeshadow palettes if we consider them to the point that I have to use every single shade 25 times. That's kind of the sort of metric that we're trying to hit for the years-long eyeshadow project pan. Obviously, if I carry on doing this and doing these updates, when we get into 2026, I'll have to use every single shade an extra time. So even if I get 100% on the Urban Decay, I will have to go back into the palette and use every single shade at least one more time, aside from all the shades where I have well over 25 uses, if that makes sense. Anyway, I thought I would do a little quick update because a lot of you wanted me to go through and kind of show you where I am with all of my eyeshadow palettes in reference to how it would look in this project pan. And this is the only way that I could think to do it. It took me a little bit of time to think about it. I was going to do a video like this like a month ago, and I was like, oh, I don't really know how I'm going to film that. Hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. I'm hoping that I was in focus as well. My camera's been like acting up recently, but when does it ever want to stay in focus for me? Never, never, never. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is a little bit more of a technical video, usage and things like that, but if it is of interest, I will hopefully either do this every 3 months or 6 months, depending on what makes sense. I was going to do my bottom 20 as well, but A, the video would have been quite a bit longer, and also B, they would have been like all my new eyeshadow palettes and would have been a little bit boring. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know down below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.